Hey, here we are for the final Dexter wrap-up podcast. Little sad about that, but very exciting. We're sitting here with Scott Buck, showrunner of the show.
Hello.
Hello, Scott Buck. And you and Manny Coda wrote this episode.
Yes, we did.
Remember the Monsters, episode 812, the final finale.
Yeah.
The one after the penultimate.
The finale.
Finally. Dexter is finished after this. So what we thought we do something a little different. Normally we just talk around it and talk about it, but we thought we'd give the fans something a little different this time around. We're gonna do a commentary along with the episode. So what you might want to do is, if we'll be talking all about Dexter and the whole thing, so you don't necessarily have to be watching the episode with it. But if it's something you'd like to do after you've watched it, you can cue it up. We'll do a little countdown, and we'll start at the title page. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So, Rob G., why don't you start us off here and get this thing rolling? You've done this before. He's a pro.
All right, so you're going to queue up your episode right now. We're going to count down from 3, and when we get to 0, that'll be when you hit play. That way you can watch along with us.
And play at the title card.
Yes,
Remember
we
the
skipped the
Monsters.
opening and we skipped the recap from last episode. We're just going to start right at the beginning of the episode. So, 3, 2, 1, play.
Remember the Monsters.
I do.
Why that title?
It's a line that's of some significance later on in the episode. Harkening back to a much simpler time before Deb knew who he was, before Dexter even knew who he was.
And something that I felt, about Dexter that has been very true all the way through is how Dexter at the very beginning, like in season 1, he wasn't, he was a bit of a monster. He definitely thought of himself as a monster.
Right.
But his one need, his one desire, the one thing that he really wanted, which is even being shown in the airport here, was to be fully accepted by someone.
Sure.
To be even loved by someone.
And that sort of folds into being fully human as well.
Yeah. Yeah, which is something that he, while in season 1 he did, and 2, he did look at humanity as a strange sort of thing. He was intrigued by them.
He was certainly intrigued. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been talking about it all the time, thinking about it all the time. What are the differences between me and them? And initially, of course, it was with some sort of condescension of, I'm better than them. Yeah. But I think you can sort of read between the lines from the very beginning that his interest was because he felt so other, he felt so different, he did feel like a monster, and there was a desire to truly be like other people, to have a life like other people. Which
led to that sort of dream sequence at the end of the season 1.
Sure.
When he comes walking out and everybody's like, yay, Dexter, thanks for taking out the trash. And the banner overhead that says, I heart Dexter.
Right.
Even his kill rooms, the people that he killed was his attempt to be known by people.
Right. I mean, it's in the kill room where the kill room is traditionally the only place where Dexter can truly be himself and reveal himself and talk to someone.
And be the most honest. Which has sort of come to its fruition. That's where we sort of are and by the time we get to the top of this episode, where Dexter thinks he may have found a way to be completely open and honest and loved by someone else. And
sure.
Not even to say that he's going to stop killing people or anything like that. It's this person has accepted him completely.
The thought is at least in the ether, but I don't think he's made a decision either way. He is who he is, so I don't think we as writers ever made a decision that Dexter would stop killing once he's there. We simply wanted to at least raise it in Dexter's mind.
Yes. And there's Elway on the phone, calling it in and getting approached by
TSA.
By TSA. These are much nicer TSA than I've ever experienced. The one time I wore a Dexter hat at an airport, and the TSA guy walked up and was like, "Oh my gosh, that's my favorite show of all!" And suddenly I was walked through everything.
Nice.
The choice of Hannah's dress, the pink and white dress, was that yours? I applaud you if it was.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I said, Yvonne, try this on.
So Dexter at this point figured out a way to get Elway out of the airport.
Out of the airport, but also himself and Hannah out of the airport. It's not a brilliant solve-it-all solution. It's just what he can think of at the time to keep Hannah from falling into the hands of Elway.
It is funny that whenever I go to now we're with Deb. We're inside of the kill room. I like the blood on the ground.
Yes.
Everything's reflecting. And then this is a moment where we sort of continue this Quinn and Deborah caring for one another. I mean, he's awful touchy at a crime scene.
I know. Well,
in a good way, though, I think.
He's very much in love.
Yeah. So this decision that Quinn is the one that gets inside here, why did this happen?
I think we wanted to bring Deb and Quinn as close together as possible. We wanted to put the idea of a very happy future for Deb in not just to her eyes, but in the eyes of the viewer.
And this is sort of her. This is like another moment where these two characters are being as honest as they possibly can be with one another. They're both stating a truth, shaded, but they're both killers right now.
Yeah.
And he killed George Novikov. Sort of. I don't think that kill has plagued him as much as Deb's kill of LaGuardia. Would you agree?
No, I think he's probably pretty okay with that.
But this idea that Quinn has in this scene,
right?
Where did that sort of come from? Is that something you hold personally, or this idea of we may have done a lot of bad in this. We may have done a lot of bad, but by doing good,
I think it's.
The scales.
I don't know if it's necessarily the way I think, but I think it's the way someone like him would think. It's just a very simplistic view of life. We all do bad stuff, but we can't help it because we're human. We try to make up for it by doing good things, and that's. I just think it's a very simple way for him to navigate through life.
Was this a set?
This is on set, yes.
So was the camera moving, or was...
No, there were grips shaking the truck, and they actually sort of overshook it at times so that we had to put some stabilizing effects in post to keep it from moving so much.
I've never been in the back of an ambulance, but I feel like it wouldn't be that smooth. And now we're at the hospital.
Right.
Jennifer was so great in that last scene, by the way.
Yes.
She was great. She was great throughout this whole episode. This hospital is an actual hospital somewhere near Long Beach.
And there it is. She just said the words.
I love you.
Oh, thank you, Scott. You were...
No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
No, take it how you want.
Once it's out there, it's yours. But I thought that was a very funny moment to me when I watched it in the dailies. Quinn's response: What? And here's poor Dexter, thinking he can head out of town. Every time he wants to get out, they always pull him back in. It's Godfather 2. That was Godfather 2. That was my Godfather 2 moment. So Dexter just found out that his sister... He really is... earlier this season, Dr. Vogel warned him about straddling two worlds. I feel like he's straddling about 8.
Yeah. He's been torn in many different directions at this point.
Can you talk about the way that... the difference between early Dexter, and maybe there isn't a difference, but the way that in season 1 with Rudy, someone else that he really wanted to be connected with. I mean, there's also people that, I also hold to the thought that if Rudy would have let Deborah live, and that he might have run off with Rudy at that moment,
right?
Because he wants to connect so badly
right.
with other people and be accepted.
If he had run off with Rudy, he probably wouldn't have lasted very long.
No. Yeah, it would have been bad. But in that scene, he said, there's a little reference to the past, the Miami Chill. Speaking of the ice truck killer, it was very nice. Lots of little nods to the past. This episode, past couple episodes. What was I saying? I was talking about Deb he looked at his sister and said, "I'm very fond of her."
Right.
And I think now he flat out he can admit that he loves her.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. There's the perfect nanny.
Available 24/7.
She's that good. So we're at the point now where they're in the hospital, and Matthews is gripping Dexter. You want to talk about Elway a little bit? He was I thought he worked out great this season. As far as how he helped Deb sort of become a policeman again and accept herself a little bit.
Yeah, it's a very difficult role to play the good guy who's trying to help someone and just get constantly rebuffed in every possible way, and in the opposite way help push her back into being what she really wants to be, which is a cop and certainly not a PI.
It's interesting that when we were first sort of talking about Elway, we thought of him much more in the grubby.
We did. We
old
sort of,
school way.
when you think private detective, you always think
Like Jack Nicholson
dark.
in Chinatown,
But it just is not really the reality of what PIs are these days.
So now we got Dexter staring at his sister on a
What are you
table
doing here?
again. Yeah.
Deborah, I'm highly morphined.
She plays high well.
Mm.
That's what this is about. That's what the hiking and all of that is sort of coming from, right?
Yeah, she's not thinking too straight at this moment. Sort of in a fantasy world.
And again, to agree with you, she plays this incredibly. Because it's hard. There's been many times when you watch people playing inebriated or high or whatever, and you're like, "Hey, good acting."
Yeah.
So,
Even though the show is called Dexter, I feel like Deb has had the most amazing character arc from the first season all the way to now. It strengthens, Dexter's role in it too, obviously. But I've always been fascinated watching Deb.
Yeah.
want to talk about her journey from season 1 to this person that she is now? Because in the beginning, she was this sort of stuttering,
Right.
nervous, twitchy
Right. Which
person.
is sort of the fun of the flashback we see earlier, where it's Deb before she knew Dexter, where she was just seems so young and happy and innocent, and I think that's been her journey, and it's all been through Dexter. So much is to go from innocence to a world where she knows what she knows.
So is it the point of this show possibly that we should never really try to connect with anyone,
Absolutely.
because if you do, you're going to die?
That has always been my personal philosophy.
Her thought that she's how did she make this trip from season, the end of season 6 top and through season 7, where she was just blaming Dexter for every stinking thing that
Because
all
I
of
think
her
that's
problems.
a very simple early reaction, and to blame someone for everything, that you lied to me, you did this, you didn't tell me who you are. But yet, there was always a side of Deborah, I think, that chose not to see who Dexter was, and not that she could have possibly guessed he was a serial killer, but she clearly knew there was something off about him. And,
Right.
She mentions it often throughout the series in sort of a joking way, that my there's something wrong about him, that he's goofy, that he's this, that he's that. And she chose to ignore it.
even in the flashback, she looks at him as an odd creature.
Yeah.
And now she's saying,
So now she understands that she's at least partially responsible for her own feelings, for her own actions. She can no longer blame Dexter for what she's done and for who she's become.
so she's lying in her bed, and they're having this moment. And little does Dexter know that this is his last goodbye.
Which is why we play it sort of so casual that, of course, we're going to see each other again, that it's not a big, tearful goodbye, which I think makes it that much sort of sadder in retrospect that it's a much more casual sort of farewell.
She's just saying, "Go on, go, be happy. I'll just lay here getting shot."
I hope you guys know to listen to this after you watch the episode. Because if you're playing along now, it's gonna be spoiled for you. So.
Oh yeah. Well, they know that now. Didn't I just say she dies?
Pause. Go back. Watch it, then come here. You guys have said often that not in definitive terms, but you always had a rough idea of where you guys would eventually end. So, can you talk a little bit about finally getting to this point? Like, how is it pretty much what you thought it was going to be? Did it change and evolve along the way? Like, what influenced the end?
I think we always knew there can never be a happy ending to a story about a serial killer. That at some point, Dexter would have to pay for everything that he's done. And there were certainly different scenarios for that we talked about throughout the years. But I think by the time we got to, the final season, what we end up doing is the one that really made the most sense for the character.
I mean, there was a strong push there were some writers that were like, Dexter deserves like hell. There has to be repercussions. There has to be repercussions for everything that he has done.
I think the way different viewers have different viewpoints of what should happen to Dexter, even amongst the writers' room, there was a lot of discrepancy of, different very strongly held views of what should happen to Dexter. To me, the most important aspect was that it shouldn't be that something happened to Dexter. It should be that Dexter is forced to make a choice, that this person who has decided the fate of so many others now has to decide his own fate.
Interesting. So now we're in this sort of flashback with Deb with her very different hair. She's not pulling it behind her ears anymore. These cute little babies. And these babies were all robots, right?
They were all robots.
It's amazing what we can do with technology, like clones and stuff.
And the actress playing the nurse happens to be Harrison's real mother.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So you want to talk about why this flashback? Why this moment? Why sort of bringing back this device?
It was just sort of a moment when everything looked good and hopeful and kind of certainly scary for Dexter, but life still seemed full of possibilities.
Yeah, I love the... when we were trying to come up with that flashback in the room, everyone was sharing, the people who had kids anyway, we were all sharing our experiences when we first saw our kid. And interestingly... pretty much all the men in the room were just like, yeah, sort of terrified.
Someone clean this up, please.
Mess on diaper 12. Yeah. So interesting thing here. When we were talking with Elway, with Sean Patrick Flannery, he's a MMA fighter, like triple black belt jiu-jitsu. You can sort of see. Well, there it is. He hits him. He so wanted to fight so badly. He was sort of bummed that he didn't get the knockdown drag out. Though he said he didn't think Elway would be able to take Dexter, but he feels like he personally could take Dexter. He could best him. Take him to the ground and do a ground and pound.
Right.
Now we're at the moment right here where our big bad is sitting across the street with the bleeding arm. Good blood there.
On Franklin in Hollywood.
Oh. You just changed the front window?
Yes.
And these are all your pets, or no?
Not my personal pets, no.
So here's this moment as Hurricane Laura is coming to town. For those who don't live in Miami, I had friends who live down there in that area who talk about how sometimes it felt like once a year they'd have to board up all their windows and move out of town as a hurricane come into town.
Everyone's got their plywood ready to board up when necessary.
That sounds... and that's sort of why we never shot in Miami, right? I mean, I remember at the beginning there was talk that they might try to keep it in Miami, but...
Well, the pilot was shot in Miami, but there were 3 hurricanes in the course of the shooting, which kept halting production and then made it impossible to get insurance for the show afterwards to shoot in Miami.
It's the business of... Yeah, it's interesting, right? So here we are, Dexter. I mean, they look like a normal, loving couple. Her legs are over his knee, and he's got holding on to her legs, and he's touching people.
Right.
He's touching her in a way that pretty much in the beginning he only touched his victims.
Right.
It's and there's no plastic involved in his love life anymore that
Well,
we know of.
We don't really know.
We never really went into that, right? So, can we talk about the decision for how we came to a decision of letting Harrison?
Well, at this
go
point, he
out
doesn't
there?
reach that decision. He still plans on going. He's wavering back and forth. What should he do? But ultimately, the decision at that moment is: yes, I would let Harrison go with you, but I'm going to go with you as well. The three of us are
Right.
going to get out of here together.
And there's some response that like, oh my God, why would you let her take care of your son?
But I don't think Dexter would ever judge Hannah the way a normal person would judge her as a killer and as dangerous. I think he fully trusts and loves her and sees her as a worthy mother figure to Harrison.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week with Yvonne Strahovski about how normal couples go through troubles, and their troubles are like, would you put the toilet seat down, and
Right.
oh my God, pick up your clothes, and you're such a slob, whatever. But that's the problems that happen with me.
Right.
My wife was not the slob; it was me. Just to be clear, sorry, Amy. But they're because of who they are, their problems are just a little bit bigger.
Yes.
But that's sort of normal for them. Getting arrested.
You
turning
turned
each
me
other
in for murder. You tried to kill me.
You tried to kill my sister. Yeah. It's just a heightened sense
Well,
of troubles.
they've come a long way now.
They have storm clouds up ahead. You see a little lightning coming
Beginning to darken.
up. Yeah. Which was a challenge in Elway, where it hardly ever does.
Yes, it was a nice, bright, sunny day when we shot this in Ontario.
Orange County. Yes. But when people go, oh my gosh, Canadian.
No, Ontario Airport.
Yeah. So was that a green screen in the clouds? How did you guys?
It's not actually a green screen, but it is the clouds, the whole sky is a visual effect.
Looks good. Well done.
I didn't do it personally. You can thank Scott Milne for that.
So this is the moment where he trusts her so much. Which is a hard thing for Dexter to do also, to trust others.
And it's not Dexter staying, not being pulled back because he needs to kill someone at this moment. It's because he's concerned about his sister. There's just a feeling inside him that he can't leave until he knows 100% that she's okay.
Can we talk about that decision at the end of 11 for a second?
Sure.
Where he's standing there above
Saxon.
Standing there above Saxon. He's got him all set up, ready to kill, knives right next to him. Everything's about to go down, and he has this startling decision.
It's just a realization that the need to kill is not as strong as some of his other needs, more particularly the need to be in a relationship, to be happy, to move forward with this life. And so he could very easily kill him, but I think he's proving to himself that he can walk away from this.
And to me, it was also felt true to Dexter because it was both giving to his sister,
Yeah.
and yet it was also a very selfish decision too. I want Hannah.
Right, yeah.
Now, I want her now. So it's not completely against his sort of his selfish needs.
But selfish needs are also very human as well.
Yeah.
It's not just a monster need.
Yeah. So there it is. Once again, another moment where our hero had no idea this was his last farewell.
Yeah, hold on.
So now we have Saxon pulling up outside of the hospital.
Yes.
And this is a fun moment to come up in the room. I remember it was like a good, nice little horror movie moment. It was Jace Richdale actually who had the pitch of how about, which is funny because of all the people. Jace Richdale comes from comedies and all this, and then he's like, we should cut out his tongue.
Okay, yeah, I was not in the room when that idea came up or pitched to me. I'm not so sure about this, but I went with it.
Yeah, I think
I think it's pretty awesome.
that right there, the blood. Oh, blood all over the place. It's a horror show plan. Get all the attention. Everyone's looking at the blood on the floor, and now you get to walk in. And he looks in his mouth. And of all the things that could get Dexter's attention and focus him, as he said in the past, it sets my teeth on edge. It focuses me. There's some blood.
All eyes on the victim. The perfect distraction.
Saxon. And Dexter takes off down a hall. His shirt sort of blends into the walls a little bit there. He's like a ninja. So meanwhile, now our Saxon's quickly walking around, and he has to finish off Deb because she's the only. His connection to Dexter. He picks up a fork, which would have been an awesome death. I was very excited. And some of the names, if you look on the list, some of the names are crew. And here it is, a face-off. Gun versus fork.
Yeah.
And then out of the side comes... I'd watched this with Remar at one point, and he was talking about how much he loves watching Zaius do cop stuff.
Because he was a real cop.
Yeah, so when he takes his hand, puts it on the neck, and shoves you to the ground. Later on, he's got that moment where he bends his arm behind his back and cuffs him, and then slams his face against the thing.
Yeah, it's probably not the first time he's done that.
He does it so well. And here we go.
Oh, man.
Where's Deb? I don't know. Something wrong. There was a problem in the Russian guys.
And we get Desmond Harrington crying.
She stopped breathing.
Breaks my heart, man. Damn you guys.
And here she is intubated, and the two people that care for her most in her life. Well, Zaius I would put, there's lots of people care for her, but it's interesting to see these two people who genuinely love Deborah and their reactions. You could almost see Dexter shutting down a little bit.
I think Dexter's just such a realist that he doesn't believe in hope.
Yes.
He doesn't believe in miracles. He doesn't believe in the unlikely happening in these circumstances.
So in some ways, what he's saying here is also the miracle that he thought he might have with Hannah.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in miracles. Dexter, the serial killer, going away to live happily ever after would be a miracle as unlikely as Deb surviving.
What were you saying, Rob?
I said poor Quinn. After everything he's been through.
He's unlucky in love.
And like how pivotal was the idea of tying Deb's death to Dexter's end? I mean, was that always kind of the plan? Like, once she died, that kind of set in motion his ultimate fate?
It was not definitely. It was not always the plan. We were not quite sure how these two would all fall together.
But once a decision was that she was going to die, it became very important that Dexter be the one, that this be sort of his last.
That the one person he would never want to harm or kill in any way is his last kill.
Here it is, Dexter holding Harrison for the first time. Connecting this with the death of his sister. Was it sort of like all of his fears sort of came true? Cute kid, oh my gosh, look at that smile.
It's great to see how the two of them play themselves in an earlier time, such different characters.
Yeah. Even the way they hold the way they stand.
Right.
Deb especially. And there it is, remember the monsters.
And it is this flashback that makes Dexter fully realize just to what a deep level he is let down and betrayed his sister in a way.
Which is an interesting thing because he, at this point right now, he thinks of himself as every bit of a monster in some ways that he thought he was first season.
Yeah, I think so.
A true monster doesn't care about other people.
Well, I mean, that's the complexity of Dexter. The more he thinks he's a monster, what does that really mean? That just shows he's got deeply conflicted feelings about who he is and what he does.
Yeah, it's not so... The minute you know you are is sort of the minute you're not.
Right. Yeah.
And here he is, Dexter, sitting there with knowing what has to happen. Here, Harrison, good little actor.
Yeah.
Have either of you been to Argentina, by the way?
I have been.
Are there cowboys?
They do. They're called gauchos.
She said it. Did you enjoy your time in Argentina? Would you go back?
I would love to go back. It's a beautiful country.
And why Argentina? Why did we pick Argentina?
I think when we first wrote Argentina a couple of years ago, I'd probably just been back from Argentina, so it was on my mind, and it just seemed it was such a faraway, romantic country.
Is there extradition? I think it's the extradition thing too, a little bit, right? That they don't have quite this.
Right. I think you can disappear there a little bit more easily than some other places.
And there's also some like weird European compounds in American.
It's a very European country.
And now Elway has found her finally. Sort of figured out that she's going to be leaving. Went to these bus terminals and found her.
Used his sources.
Yep. So he lays out the plan. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take you in. Mm-hmm. We're going to put the kid in Child Protective Services. And it cuts to her to see her reaction to that, which was... And once again, her dream, when she married that one guy, she got pregnant, she was going to have this kid, and this guy was taking this away from her. And here is another person who's going to take away this miracle, sort of. How does one nail a to the wall?
Just watch.
I love that. And here, the way he's looking right there, that is like pure season 1 Dexter. But it's interesting though because it's a vengeance thing.
Right.
Again, it's different than the kills he used to have. It's like when this guy goes down, if he's able to find him, he doesn't want to connect with this person. He doesn't want to open up with this person. He wants to learn something from this person. It's a very human kill.
He just wants this person dead.
Yeah. He's feeling these same emotions that Quinn is feeling.
Right.
Which he's never... I love. Desmond's great here. But the way that Zayas plays it and the way that he plays it. Look at just building. Boom! And it's almost like he is feeling all the emotions that Dexter... We get to see the emotions that Dexter's feeling. Mm-hmm. And Zayas.
Right.
There's that moment I was talking about where it's like, yeah, he's done this a lot. Crunch. Crumb. And Zayas has got some big hands. That sounds odd.
Not coming from you, it doesn't.
And then there's that moment where Dexter's thinking about, what do I do?
Yep.
I like how Elway here is so sort of satisfied. Like, I won.
All taken care of.
And I was watching this with someone, some friends. They were like, "Oh, great! Here it comes. He's gonna poison. You want some tea? There's poison in the tea." Playing against what you expect. Where'd you get the poison? Everything's leading toward that laugh he does is great. And crunch. And how did she get the needle?
Dexter gave it to her.
Yeah.
A little extra essentials.
Yep. He's always letting her go prepared.
Because she didn't needle him in the neck like Dexter usually does, it takes a few seconds for him to pass out.
plays unconscious well too. Interesting that that little cut. You got Elway with his eyes closed, and then you get Dexter with his eyes closed. Any reason for that, or just like a happy coincidence?
Just look nice.
Yeah. So here's Dexter going to do his job. Gonna check for some gunshot residue to match it up against.
Done a million times before.
Yeah, and he's signing into the holding cells at the bottom of Miami Metro. I like that the holding cells. A lot of times in TV shows, we just sort of stick with the old-fashioned bars. And this is sort of what they look like now.
I think this is a little more accurate to what a holding cell is these days.
Yeah. And when we checked in with the police about, okay, tell us about a holding cell, tell us how this all works, and they say there was cameras, there's the buttons, and they don't handcuff them or anything.
No, they give them a panic button. They're potentially watching everything on the monitor, but not necessarily.
There's Dexter putting on gloves. It's all the sort of accoutrement of a normal killer room, without any parts of it.
Right, and there are no. The other thing we learned is that there is no sound on these cameras. It's just picture.
Yeah. I love the blinking camera. This thing is watching him. It's the first time Dexter, other than when his sister saw him, that he's allowing people into a kill. This thing that we've done as viewers for 8 years, we've watched him. This time the whole world is going to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Were you on set during this kill?
Yes, I was.
Anything?
Just
memories?
that it was a lot of quick cleanup of blood.
Because it wasn't CGI blood, which is good.
No, he's
practical.
We actually bled the actor. No, now he's wearing a rig, but it makes an enormous mess. So it's guys swooping in as fast as possible to clean it up, and let's do it again.
I love that Dexter puts this challenge out.
Just knowing that he will grab it.
Can't resist. Crunch. And then Dexter gets to do what he's been wanting to do. I like that he pulls it out. That effect is amazing. Was that Kelsey and everybody?
Yeah.
And you hit that carotid artery, you bleed out quick.
Yeah.
And there it is, like Dexter's. I love that. And then I
love that turn right there.
You see emotion. They run in and find this guy dead. There was some worry about being allowed to have Dexter be seen doing this kill. You held strong. I like Dexter sort of.
I love Quinn's look to him because it's like, you're certainly not exactly who you seem to be.
Yeah. Which is something he's sort of known ever since
Weller.
Peter, the Weller season, where he sort of knows. Did Dexter kill Weller? And now everything's sort of confirmed.
I think it was sort of covered in an earlier episode, though. Yeah. We've all got the.
Yeah. I like the way that Dexter. I mean, the way Michael C. Hall sort of sitting there as they're watching his kill. Right. This thing that was normally his private thing. He now, in some ways, he needed the world to see this.
And they know it doesn't make 100% sense, but they believe they can defend it. But again, I think they're thinking this was just Dexter doing a revenge kill for his sister.
It's justice served.
Yeah.
It certainly is that feeling. I mean, that's why so many policemen love this show.
Right.
There was that guy at the Paley Center. This homicide detective stood up and talked about how this was his favorite show. Mm-hmm. And there's like this sense of somewhere out there there's justice. And then he sort of lets him step away. Do Do you think in that moment he was saying you have a lot to deal with? Do you think he was knowing he's going to leave, or no? Because he's thinking his sister's.
You got to deal with.
Yeah, he's got to deal with that. That's what he's talking about. Is that Miami?
That is Miami.
Dexter on his porch.
For so long, all I wanted was to be like other people, to feel what they felt.
To feel what they felt. It's funny that Dexter now thinks that he understands that about himself, whereas in the first season
I think he was in complete denial about it back then.
Yeah, but over the course, you want to talk about that a little bit about how this whole time we've been airing while Breaking Bad, where it's Walter White becoming more and more and more evil, and this show went a different way.
I mean, I think Dexter's trajectory has always been reaching towards his own humanity.
And yet, in this little sequence here, this is sort of like, to me, this has always been sort of like the classic Universal horror monster iconography of the man walking out with the monster walking out with the innocent girl in his arms. From Creature of the Black Lagoon to Frankenstein to whatever. I don't think Dracula carried anything.
Yeah,
He's too little. No, he was actually really tall. So here we go. Dexter's farewell. How did this decision come about? Do you remember? You want to talk about that a little bit?
That Dexter would have to kill his own sister?
Yeah,
It just,
in this way.
I mean, it's something I think we had talked about for a while, that Dexter would have to bear the responsibility for his sister's death, and not just through circumstances, but that he would have to be the one to actually kill her. He would have to make that decision. Because that's what forces his eyes open and makes him look at what he's done.
Yeah. That was something we were angling, like, from season 7 and on, when we were talking about this ending. That was something we sort of held on to, that from that very first episode, open your eyes and look at what you've done.
Right.
This is Dexter's moment when he does that, yeah. Were you on set for this? Parts of it?
I was on set for parts of this, yes, but most of this was shot at a hospital.
It's very emotional. So what he's doing now is shutting down this machine. And the reason why he can sort of get away with this a little bit is because everything is just crazy because of Hurricane Laura.
Yeah, the hospital is in the process of clearing one wing, moving people to another. The scene was shot actually on 2 different days. One, it was shot in its entirety at the actual hospital set, and then the set was rebuilt on stage and shot again. So there may be bits and pieces of it from different days even.
And there he is. A very different kill. Rob, how'd this make you feel?
I don't want to talk about it. It makes me very sad.
Yeah.
I think I told you, Scott, that Deb's I think Deb's my favorite fictional character on television, almost of ever. Love that character.
It's an amazing journey she went on, and now there it is, Dexter, who's chased killing all his life.
We've never seen this kind of emotion on Dexter before.
No. Maybe Rudy. But that was different.
Not even.
Yeah, you're right. This, her death gets me every time. And then he gets to say those words, "I love you, Deb."
Considering this was the final episode, was there any precautions or things you guys did in terms of not letting the story get out, not letting this part get out?
Completely. Most of the scripts that went out, including to the cast, were heavily redacted with this scene completely cut out. Any mention of Deb's death in the episode was cut out from most of the scripts.
Because there was, even now, on Reddit and whatever, there's all these, I know what's going to happen, and no one really knew. Just the actors. But once it was shot, they knew.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the table read that I think most of the actors heard it for the first time, but even then...
Even then it wasn't. The ending was the ending.
The ending was not there.
And there it is. This is that moment that...
This is Dexter actually carrying Jennifer down a very
Wow.
rather treacherous gangway, which was so difficult because the railing is so high that he can only carry her sideways, carrying her all the way down, one take, stepping into a boat.
Amazing. He's just walking out in the middle of all this, all the craziness. I think if anybody got in his way, he would have killed them. That's very, to me, that's just all very classic universal horror. Her wrapped up like that. A little bit of and Bride of Frankenstein, We Belong Dead.
And this was all shot on a very bright, warm, sunny day. So you're seeing a lot of visual effects here.
The storm coming in, and this decision that this is going to be Dexter's last body dump.
Yeah. And I think he does it this way because he feels he has to take full responsibility for this. And he wants to put her to rest, I believe.
Was this out in the water, or is this on the set?
This is in the water.
You can sort of see the storm in the background. And this is his farewell to Hannah. And she doesn't know. At this point, did you think, when you were writing this, did Dexter know what he was going to do? Did Dexter think, was Dexter sort of suicidal at this point, or was he like, I don't think go away?
Dexter has ever been suicidal. I think there was always a potential plan in the back of his mind, but I think at this point he knew he had to disappear.
Yeah. For the sake of Harrison, for the sake of Hannah. And it's interesting, like, a lot of times when you watch this show throughout the years, you think, how does he keep going back to his son? Once again, it's like the most human thing to know that because of what I am, I will destroy my son also.
It is the full realization that he's a monster, the full belief that he's a monster, that now forces him to do what he thinks is the most humane thing, which is to leave his son. To not inflict himself upon them.
This is a very beautiful moment. Dropping the phone, dropping his identity, dropping no one can know where he's at. Was this slow motion part of this in the script, or was this something that chill and...
I think it was all discussed, but I don't think it was very specifically in the script, but it was certainly talked about. And I think Steve Schill is one of our most experienced directors who's probably done more Dexters than anybody. So I think when he sees a scene like this, he knows he's going to give it everything.
And there he is holding his last victim in Miami.
And this is Jennifer he is picking up and tossing into the water.
Wow. She was she talked a lot at Paley Center and in the past about how she felt like for her own being, she needed Dexter to look at that. Wow. The white sheet, it's beautiful. It's like Ophelia.
The hair.
And the hair, yeah.
If you look carefully, you will see the first tear that Dexter ever sheds.
Wow. And that was important to Michael, wasn't it? Like,
it was. I mean, he's just such a phenomenal actor in these scenes.
And he goes. It's also, he's going back to Laura.
Yeah,
pulling into
where it all begins with Laura, ends and ends.
It's like he could never escape it. And he goes into the storm. I love the rain hitting the screen.
Lens.
Yeah, I didn't notice that before. So now the storm has passed. Miami's bright and cheerful, just the way it was in the pilot.
Yeah.
Except someone's missing. So this decision for the boat and the wreckage, and want to talk about that?
I think we just needed to close his Miami life, let them know that he was gone forever.
There it is, just a slice. Did you guys actually destroy the boat?
No.
Okay. So that boat's out there somewhere.
The boat is still there.
I thought I read it was for sale. Somebody was selling it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible.
And this is Zayas getting word that she's gone, and this is Buenos Aires.
Also known as the parking lot of Sunset Tower.
In the background, that's Jasmine. I didn't notice that before. She was our APOC. Hannah loses Dexter. Now she's like, oh, I got this kid.
The backgrounds that you were seeing were largely shot in Buenos Aires. We had people down there shooting plates for us, and then it's our Scott Milne with his special effects company making it all work for us.
And there they go. They do look like mother and son.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling up into Buenos Aires. And you think that's the end. But it's not. So you guys shot this part in Oregon. You really
This
did,
was
right?
shot in Astoria, yes. The idea being it's as far away from Miami as Dexter could possibly get.
It's cold and overcast.
And
sound.
the land of the serial killers, Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest.
And I think it's also interesting that like this is the land where everything that he does is the sound of chainsaws.
That's true.
It's like he can't escape this thing. This is where he's at. Like right about now, you suddenly realize, oh my gosh, that's.
Yeah, there's no big tight close up to say, oh my God, here's Dexter. It's sort of the idea was at least it's a gradual, slow realization of what's going on.
It's going to this dumpy house. Looks like the house of a serial killer, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this decision to not have any voiceover.
That was a decision from long ago that I didn't want voiceover to come in and explain anything. I didn't want music here to tell you how to feel. It's just all inside Dexter's head for a moment.
Camera moving in, closer. Normally right now you'd hear, I've always liked Miami, the Cuban food. Nothing.
Nothing. Silence.
It's almost like he's punishing himself, and then I love this. He looks at us just like in the beginning.
Goodbye, Dexter.
Yeah, that's the end. So leaving it sort of purposely open, like is Dexter punishing himself? So he will never kill again, or has he put himself in the land of serial killers because he's made this decision? This is what I am. Don't know.
I don't think we want to answer those questions.
Yeah, I don't know. But thanks for bringing us 8 years of Dexter, Scott Buck, bringing us through the final 3 or 4 seasons.
Thanks to you.
Rob G, anything you want to say now that we're at the end of this?
No, just thank you guys for the opportunity. Been a lot of fun doing Dexter wrap up, so really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys have been very warm and welcome the entire time. Everybody from the writers to the actors to the crew. So
well, luckily you're such a good guy. It makes it easy.
I'm just quiet.
And that's it. Dexter, that's a wrap.
Goodbye, Dexter.
Goodbye, Dexter. And there it is, the final Dexter wrap up. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
There will not be another.
That's
Does
the
not
end.
have to happen again and again. That's the end. Thanks for listening.